New Westminster Veterans Oral History Project. Today's date is December 18th, 2001. The interviewee is Mr. Bill Drinkwater, who is with the Navy. Mr. Drinkwater, what is your full name?
Wilfred Ambrose Drinkwater.
And what is your date and place of birth?
Well, I was born actually in Cloverdale,
Okay.
but my residence was New Westminster. But 1913 were rough old days, you know. The travel was slow and arduous. If you wanted to go to Cloverdale, you spent a day.
Oh, okay. So you ended up...
My mother, of course, she would follow father in his business. He was a blacksmith.
Okay.
And he worked in there at his trade, and he followed the trade around, the logging and stuff like that.
Right.
So he was in Cloverdale at the time. That was,
Okay. So
that was the start of the question. The other was October the 4th, 1913. That was my date of birth. Is that what was on that question?
Yeah, that's perfect. Can you tell me your marital status?
Married today. Yeah.
And what's your wife's full name and maiden name?
Well, she was Lillian Bay Bell.
Okay. And do you have any children?
Yes, we had one son.
Okay.
Lucky to have him. I was damn near lost them both at childbirth.
Oh, really? Hey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
However, both survived.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that was it, just the one then.
Right. Okay. And what's his name?
His name is Donald. I was just Donald Drinkwater, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So where were your parents from then?
From Manchester, England.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And did they live long in New Westminster then?
Practically, my dad came from Manchester to New Westminster at the outset.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and he never talked about the old country, so that's all I know about him.
Okay. So you've always been a New Westminster resident, is that right?
Yes.
Right. And what is your current address?
Here.
Yeah.
That'll be 1703, 739 Princess Street.
Okay. And
in New Westminster.
right. And what about previous residences to this?
Well, just the one. That was at 1821 Edinburgh Street. And I moved there. I started to build when I saw war was coming on. And I thought, well, I'm going to have some place to come home to.
Right.
So, on to the ages of one, he was a great old gentleman. He helped me get a start in, so he drove me around, fixed a lot on Edinburgh Street in New Westminster.
Yeah.
And he bought the lot for me.
Oh, really? Yeah.
I didn't have a nickel to my name. Spent it as I went. And he bought it and set me up there under the National Housing Act, where I would pay 20%.
Right.
He paid the 20%. And I paid him back so much a month.
Right.
Until it was finalized. And when I finished up his last payment there, because all I had was just an IOU for the amount of money, and he says, well, you never missed a payment, you took it up, he just tore it up. I said, well, don't I pay you any interest? No, he says, you paid everything up. He just took me under his wing, and
right.
Yeah.
That's great.
Oh, it was. He lived in a house on 2nd Street, and on 2 lots, and he used to keep peacocks, you know, the big peacock birds, feathers with a big tail and that.
Mm-hmm.
That's where he lived.
So what branch of the armed forces were you enrolled in?
Well, I started out, I thought, well, the war's coming in. I've got my house started now and being built, and I should make some sort of plan to move into the services. I didn't like the idea of the Army because I was in the high school cadets. And Army was rolling your legs in puttees and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, with that. So I thought, well, I'll try the Air Force. I was a full-fledged mechanic.
Right.
And I thought, well, the Air Force would be, I can repair engines and stuff like that. I applied to the Air Force. They tell me, oh, that's good. We have to train you and doing their work. It'll take a 2-year course. Train me? Something else? I said, you've got to be out of your head. Oh, no, we have to teach you how to do it. I said, there's no difference. It's either a 2-cycle or 4-cycle engine. Doesn't know what shape it is or anything like that. I'll repair anything like that. Well, goodness, that was. Anyway, I just forgot about them. So I went to the Navy. The Navy snapped me up.
You did, eh?
And I realized why, because they shipped me out to sea right away. I was a sailor, but the ship I was on was a flotilla leader. I think I showed you the picture of it.
Yeah.
And it was a mess. I fixed it up though.
Did you?
It was a British ship with a British Lockheed hydraulic steering system on it, oil steering, and it was a mess. Good God! I was a mechanic.
Right.
Those were my things. I knew what I was going to do.
So what was your rank and position then?
Well, when I first went in, I was just what they call a stoker,
Okay.
the lowest rank in the Navy. But they had drawn a group of men that were classified as mechanics, and they're there, and they sent us in a room, and they had a test for us.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody knew what the test was, but what it was to draw a schematic drawing of a third brush regulating type electrical charging system. I do it. I used to do all that repair work myself. So I went from the battery right up, a complete circle showing everything. The next day I was called out of parade ground where I was in training up to what they call Captain D in the Navy. And there I am in the middle of winter. What did I think of the Navy? I said, I guess it's all right. Did I want to make a career of it? I said, hell no. I said, all I want to do is serve my time and get out of it. I got a home to go back to. So I said, anyway, list came up there. They advanced me to a chief petty officer.
Wow.
So I did that overnight.
And is that what you ended up as then?
Well, as time went on, when I went to sea, I found out as the chief petty officer, I was engineer officer of the ship. I carried the same rank pretty well as the captain of the ship. Mm-hmm. And he was Fraser Mitchell. He was a scion of a wealthy family back east somewhere. He didn't know half the stuff that he should know. Just a peacetime sailor, you know. Mm-hmm. But we made up together, but I found out I never stood a watch. The engineer officer went ashore the same time as the skipper went. But the executive officer of the ship, he stood a watch.
Really?
Yes, he stood a watch in harbor. He couldn't go ashore.
Right.
And there was another junior officer, and his name was Bill Orr. And he was what I call the scion of the Orr stores, a family, a big family in Vancouver. Okay. Well, he was like a 90-day wonder out of King's College back east. So he comes back on the ship as a sub-lieutenant, a commissioned officer. Well, I made more money than he did. Bill Orr, it turned out we're good friends.
Right. So when did you enroll in the Navy then?
That would have been, oh Lord, that would have been somewhere in the fall of '42.
And yeah, okay. And was that in Vancouver?
Yes, but the actual date I don't recall.
Right.
It's out of Vancouver where they had, it's in Stanley Park there.
Yeah, okay.
There's I forget what they used to call it.
Right. And how old would you have been then?
Well, let's see. From 1913, that'd have been about 28, 29, because,
Right.
1913 was the year I was born,
Right. Right.
and so 1942, would I say?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Something
29 years of age,
Right.
something like that.
And when you enrolled, did you go in with friends or just on your own?
Just on my own.
Just on your own. So how many years of service did you end up completing?
Well, when I was at sea, of course, until they dropped the bomb on Japan,
Mm-hmm.
and it changed the course of the whole course of the war then.
Yeah.
And they shipped us up to Comox,
Mm-hmm.
and they sent our ship up there with it just to get us out of the way. They didn't know what to do with it until they decided they had planned to ship us on a baby flat top, load us on a baby flat top down to the South Seas
Oh, okay.
to attack Japan. Meantime, they dropped this bomb on Japan. And that put the end to that.
I bet. So when you heard that, when you heard that Canada declared war on Germany, and then consequently Japan, what sort of feelings did you have?
Well, I knew I was going to go in anyway,
Yeah.
but I was taking my time. I wasn't in a hurry. I wanted to get my house finished.
Yeah.
And I had started my house in 1938.
Oh, okay.
I started to dig a foundation. Well, that's kind of another story.
Yeah.
I hired a guy to dig the foundation, but it was like he took the topsoil off and he disappeared. He had a scoop and a team of horses. You got to go back a number of years, you know. Those days they're not like today with all the power machinery and anything like that.
No kidding.
So I dug the basement out myself. Wore up more picks. It's like concrete. It was.
No kidding.
So I spent all one summer digging the foundation out to set the walls in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it was built under the house was built under the National Housing Act. Very, very strict on the construction. The house is still standing there today.
That's great. What sort of training did you get in the Navy?
None.
None at all?
No. Just on the ways of the sea. But then I learned that myself.
Right.
Sort of as you went, you're aboard ship. You learned the rules of the road.
Mm-hmm.
Well, simply because the engine room, I was in charge of that. Nobody else on the ship knew anything about it.
Right. So where were you actually? Did you just stay on that ship for the duration of your time?
Yes.
That was your job, right?
That was my ship. I put in for a draft for overseas, but they told me I was too old for it.
Oh, right. Okay.
29, 30, 31, you know.
Yeah.
I was too old for that, and they wouldn't submit me. So I said, well, they could use me as a sort of a trainer, too. Some of my boys ended up on landing craft on the crossing over to from Britain to the shores there.
Oh, for D-Day there.
Yeah.
Okay, so you trained then, and you worked in the engine room, and so what did the ship that you were on? What type of ship was that?
Well, that was a speed craft. It was built of lap stroke mahogany siding. It's a type of construction, and it was relatively new at the time, and it's fast.
Mm-hmm.
The craft could go up to around 35 knots.
Mm.
And we had two big engines there, Paul Scott, 12 cylinders,
Mm-hmm.
side by side, of course. And of course, I could patrol one and shut the other one down on what we call ASIC patrol, anti-submarine. And that would be a slow process across the mouth of and we would do a process of that across the mouth of the Juan de Fuca Straits.
Okay.
You know where that would be there, against submarine entrance.
And so you guys were patrolling, is that right?
Yes, yeah, we patrolled across there, and then we would have further, actually, another ship would take over from us then, and we'd be further out.
Right.
So that was the extent of our wartime effort, you might say, but
Right.
we never knew. We had what they call blips on the anti-submarine. It's a dome that they used to lower down.
Mm-hmm.
We lower this down, and then the lads on the patrol there, he would have these earphones in there, and they go ping. We call them ping merchants. Ping.
Okay.
Ping.
Searching for.
Yeah, and if anything came up there, we'd hear then it would start going like that. See, then we knew that we had. That would happen.
Yeah.
We knew there were submarines out there, but until we had proof of picking one out,
Right.
it was a big ocean.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. Would you be able to sometimes mistake a whale or something like that for something?
No, they didn't have any effect on it apparently,
Oh, okay.
and I don't really know the real reason for it, but
So just elaborate a little bit on what the role of the ship was then. It was for the submarines, but
that's right.
you went.
Anti-submarine detection, ASDIC, that's how anti-submarine detection, something like that, I forget what
Right.
the total terminology was there.
Right.
Got out of my mind.
Did you have guns on the ship as well?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
On the after deck, we had 24 what they call RDX depth charges, 1,000-pound bombs,
Mm.
and they would roll off.
Oh, okay.
And some off the stern and both sides of the ship.
Right.
Then I had a Y gun went amidships, a Y gun there, and they were loaded on. We had a davit there, load them up there, and they'd be expelled over like that. They'd be go further, you see. You'd drop a pattern, and the Y gun would send two more on one either side, further up to catch. Make a pattern. It made a pattern.
Right. Okay.
And you'd be doing that under higher speed, of course.
Right.
And then we had 3 20-millimeter Oerlikon anti-aircraft guns. One in the stern, one midships, and one up the bow end.
Right.
And of course, if any one of those ever hit our ship, whoop! Boom. Just after the engine room was with bulkheads in there, but had 10,000 gallons of 97 octane gasoline. It was just taking one trace of there, whoop, we'd have gone.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about things like your uniform and supplies. What would you have worn a uniform while you're on the ship?
Well, not a uniform per se, like a dress uniform, like in the picture there. But I would have, say, in our strip, even officers men, like T-shirts and blue slacks. The boys, the ratings, would have the 7C strip, what they call the 7C strip.
Okay.
The sailors would have, and they had a different rig than we had, you see.
Because you were an engineer.
Well, we were officer rating.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
What about when you went ashore? What sort of uniform would you wear?
With just a regular uniform with, I had those pictures there. I think they would show you, like, there, with the jackets and the peak cap, of course, just regular trousers.
When you were working on the ship, would you have like a certain like sack of supplies or anything with you at all times?
No, if I was on the ship, I wasn't supposed to get my hands dirty even.
Oh, really?
Oh, Lord, I can remember we were in harbor there, and we were doing work on our own ship. We had the engine down that, And I'd been going up to stores up there. I'd been packing 2 pistons with me. And some old, Lord, some old, doddering old RCN naval type, what's that there? He says, you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to have your runners do that, because I had my officer's cap on anyway. They do that. But I had just a T-shirt on, and I was in there right in the midst of it all. Well, that was my training. That's the way I was in there fixing.
Well, you like to do it too.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's part of what I wanted.
Right, right.
But I can remember that old doddering old bugger. And I thought, yeah. If we worked on the way you worked, I said we'd lose this war long ago. Anyway, that was part of the things that I used to think about.
Describe to me a regular or average day while at sea.
Well, it's pretty dull in one sense. If the weather turned bad, that was good. I liked that.
More exciting?
Oh yeah, sure, it was activity then, but
Right.
I can remember some moonlit nights, and we were doing a slow patrol there, and the sun was out, and you had those fluorescents in the water, and I'd watch be out there and watching this tuna off the bow end of the ship, streaking back and forth like that, swimming back and forth in the heat. And it was quite a sight,
Yeah.
But you just lay down there and watch it almost go to sleep.
Yeah.
And it's a dull routine because you just back and forth, on the sweep.
Right. And then that's all you do is go back and forth, sort of thing.
Yeah. Of course, the wheelhouse was all blacked out, and the helmsman, of course, he had the ping machine on. Well, he was our ping merchant. That's what we call him.
Right.
And and the dome was down then.
Yeah.
And of course, with the dome down, you couldn't travel at high speed because it was a drag. So you raised the dome up to the bottom of the ship, out to the keel, and then you were open you could set up your speed then, you see. Or if there was action stations, I'd fire up the other engine. I would only be patrolling on one, but creating a drag to keep the heat up on it. And then we started up there. We carried 3-to-1 reduction gears and two propellers, of course. And of course, action stations, we'd fire them both up, both engines up, and away we go.
Right.
Oh, Lord. I'm down the engine room then.
Yeah. So how would the day work? Like, would you wake up at a certain time and then get off at a certain time? Is that
right?
Yeah.
Well, of course, you're on patrol there for 5-day patrol out there. The routine was the same. You'd turn in. I had no watch to stand, so we had 3 watches. You get a mess deck crew coming out there. And the mess deck, they had a table would drop down from the 4 stanchion holes. The table's there. Well, the card game would go. The gambling would start in, and the first crew off there, they'd start gambling. That game never stopped. When the next crew, the watch, they would come on duty, and they would go off. They'd start playing cards, gambling.
No kidding, eh?
Oh, Lord, I tell you. That's why I learned about gambling. I never gambled. I did. I gambled in the Navy, yes. But I gambled that some of those boys, they would probably be about 5 and 6 months in debt. They didn't have a nickel to go ashore. I'd give them, well, here's $10, go ashore. Pay me back when you can get to it. That's my gambling.
Yeah.
The odd time I got it back, the odd time I never gambled, of course. Of course, I made more money than they did. But, as I say, I made more money than the executive officer of the ship.
Yeah.
Because he had to pay for me because I didn't progress further than were to the top rank in the NCOs. That was as far as I wanted to go. Because I knew that if I was to go up further rank, I would become a dog robber every officer of the Navy.
Right.
I'd be standing watches until they come out of my head. You learn, you learn as you. I learned that through KRNAI, which is King's Rules and Admiralty Instructions. Boy, I tell you, I knew everything was on the book in there.
Right. So you mentioned that you went on 5-day patrols.
Yes.
And then what would happen after that?
Well, on the 5 patrol, we'd come back in, and of course, then we'd have to fuel up first.
Okay.
And of course, one of the first things we did is run a static line ashore because we would build up enough electric to put a spark that long going ashore.
Oh, really?
Built it on the ship, yeah. So before you turn everything off, everything is shut off, and we drifted ashore and threw a static line ashore.
And that grounded it?
And the shore boys grounded it then.
Right,
And
okay.
we pulled in to the fueling jetty, filled up the tanks, and the oiling jetty was further on, and engine oil by the drum.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And that would be lowered into the engine room, secured, of course, and then with the taps on, everything like that, you'd draw that for your lubricating oils.
Right. And then what? And then after that, would you just go back to your patrol then? Or?
Well, that's no. We would be in harbor for 2 or 3 days. We had done our stint, you see, and we had our berth. We'd pull over there. The skipper and I would go ashore. The others assumed watch duties then.
Right.
So many of the crew would be on watch. Some would be able to go ashore for a short time. I was ashore for the whole of the term.
Right. So where was shore? Where was your harbor?
It was Victoria in Esquimalt Harbor.
Oh, okay. Okay. So did you have a battle station as well? Or, because I know many people, many Navy personnel would have had sort of 2 jobs. They would have had a battle station and a regular job.
Well, no, we were always on call because for emergencies or anything like that. I remember one year there was a flare went down off Swiftshire Banks out there. The only people that we had threw up was Bill Orr. Bill Orr wasn't the best of sailors. In fact, I practically took charge of the ship because the skipper wasn't available, and they sent us out flying. And Bill Orr, was in command of the ship. God, I had to lash him to one of the gunnels on the bridge, or he'd get washed overside. That's a fact.
Wow.
So I was running between the bridge and down through the escape hatch in down the engine room.
No kidding. So it was a big storm then, I guess, eh?
Oh, yes, you were in there, but I can remember some of those boys down there. They'd be scratching, their fingers were raw, scratching at the deck plates, hanging on, they're sick as a dog. I said, I'm going to have to draft you ashore, because, they'd get down their hands and knees begging me not to draft them ashore. I had the power to do it. I was an excellent sailor. I never knew it before I went, but it turned out to be that's the way it was. Good
So
idea.
did you ever draft anyone to shore?
Yes, I've had to, yes. But because of they couldn't handle the weather. And but I can remember this one, Tatty. He was an Italian boy, and he was on my ship as one of my engine room crew. I tell you, he was one of the best cooks that you ever saw. God, he could take a piece of meat and he would make that into, and they used to give us the damnedest stuff, in the Navy. Oh boy, he could make it. So Tatty, I'll never forget him. But the rigger cook, who was he was, so-and-so. He just went through the motions.
Yeah.
Trained as a cook, but he wasn't really a cook. That was his job, though.
Right.
That's funny.
So, explain to me a little bit about the eating arrangements and sleeping arrangements on a ship.
Well, of course, they slept in hammocks.
Oh, okay.
Hammocks?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, they're the best. I had my own cabin, of course. My cabin was abaft the the galley, and I had the bottom bunk, and the cox of the ship had the top bunk.
Oh, okay.
2 bunks there, but Lord, I had a bunk board that high, and I'd be tossed out of that sometimes.
In the
rolling of the ship, yeah.
No kidding.
But you know, I would hear those engines, and if both engines run, we kept both engines going during storm.
Okay.
Stormy weather on the slow patrol, and of course the ship rolling and tossing, and I'd be rolling and tossing with my sleep sound as away. But I could, the minute one spark plug misfired, I knew it in my head. I'd wake up just instantly. I could tell by the drone of the engines, you know, because
Right.
the engine room is just after my my cabin.
Right. Right. And then what about eating arrangements? Did you have like a common room or something, or?
Yes, there's a mess deck there.
Oh, okay.
I had mine served right across from the galley. Had a table there and everything. I could eat there if I wanted. Well, sometimes I'd eat with the boys on the mess deck tables. But most times I was perusing some sort of material there, and I just wanted to be off by myself.
Right. Right.
So the mess deck boy, what we call a Peggy.
Okay.
The Peggy was the waiter.
Right. And how many men would there have been on the ship?
About 25 to 30.
25 to 30.
Yeah.
Right. Right. What about, did anyone on the ship ever get injured? Or did you ever get injured?
No, I've had some injuries there, but I'm supposed to take care of them too. Engineer officer was supposed to take care of anybody that suffered an injury.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So what sort of injuries did,
Well, sometimes they had a squashed hand, they get caught on something there, you know, and get a cut or something like that. Well, I had just a sort of mediocre training in it, not a training really. Just knew what to do with something so you can get them ashore.
Right. And how did the Navy treat injured sailors?
Well, of course, they had medical officers and doctors in the hospital right in shore, you see,
Oh, I see.
at the Squimble. But then they would have to wait until we came ashore. But as I recall, we didn't have any real emergency. That is, somebody that was really badly hurting like that.
Right.
But sometimes you wondered about some of them, though. I remember one of the younger ones, there was a big flap on there. He says, "Oh," and he'd wake up. I guess he must have been asleep there, the drone in the engine, you know, and he was sitting there, and his feet got wet, and water was coming in the engine room.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, Lord, of course, I'm there. Of course, I'm called up first thing. Well, where's it coming from? I don't know. So what I had to do is set the auxiliary pumps going. And I thought, well, that's seawater, of course. So I diverted the intake from the outside to the inside of the ship. And that took the water that was coming into the ship and drew that through to cool the engines.
Oh, okay.
So I got the water down to the point where I could see it, and then I found out where it was coming from. It's coming from a seacock it was on the port engine, and when we got her into shore, we got the ship into shore anyway, and that's where I kept her afloat from excess water. So we got her on the dockyard, brought her up in the ship, put it up there, and the ship had galvanized fittings down in there where it should have been copper.
Rusted out, hey?
Yes, eaten right out, you see. So that was one of the things you do. Well, you get that fixed up, and that was okay, but it was just an incident.
Right, right.
But it's one of the things that could have been, but I can remember this year, man, the lifeboat. We didn't have any lifeboats.
No, you didn't have any lifeboats?
No, just carly floats.
Oh, okay.
A carly float is just a round ring of as a lifeboat would do today.
So what about going on leave? Did you ever go on leave while you were?
Yes, of course I had compassion leave. My mother passed away when I was in the Navy.
Oh, okay.
And I was allowed, close enough to home that I was allowed compassionate leave to go home for that. See. For her funeral, I didn't make it there anyway, but however, that was in 1944. And it was kind of a little rough time with my dad.
Yeah.
But that passed, and then of course I had one or two other occasions that I had probably a week off, and I would go ashore, and of course by this time I was a married man.
Oh, okay. Did you get married during the war then?
Oh yes.
Okay.
Got married in 1941.
Oh, just before you...
January 41.
Oh, okay.
And then I went into the Navy, but I said, now I've got a home to go, come back to. If I never came back, at least my wife had a place.
Right.
So there it was.
And so that's what you do on leave, is you'd come home.
Yeah.
Right.
I used to come home, I'd be like the Pied Piper. I'd come home with boxes of Jersey milk candy bars.
Oh, yeah.
Kids never got a candy bar. There's no such thing as candy in those days. But I'd be like the Pied Piper, come to the street, see me in uniform and my pack sack, and they'd follow me home.
No kidding.
Yeah.
No kidding.
And my wife used to deal out these candy bars to the kids.
Ah, popular guy in the
Yeah.
neighborhood.
Oh, yeah. Well, there was excess. I could take those and bring them home anytime I wanted, you see. So, and it's funny, there's two sides of the war. I was in the war, and they were on the opposite. They weren't in the war.
Yeah. And
it's kind of a hard thing to describe. Well, you wouldn't know anything about it, of course, but you'd probably about a 6 to 10-year-old, and you wouldn't know anything about war. War was, why can't I have a candy or something like that, you know?
Right.
I used to think about that those days there. God, I had all I wanted in the Navy. I never liked candy. I never used it.
No kidding, hey?
Yeah.
What about social life in the service? Was there such a thing on the boats? Was there such a thing?
No, there was no. The odd time they would have. I can remember they had on a New Year's. They had parties of Navy women. They're called the Wrens those days. WRENS. And we were alongside a naval dock outside of the Esquimalt, and they'd bring these women up. God, they'd go on the off or the water side of the ship there. Some of them be damn sick. And we were alongside. We weren't anywhere. Didn't go anywhere with them on board, of course. They couldn't hack it just being on the ship. They had to get them off the ship.
Would you guys have dances or something like that, or?
No room for that there.
No.
They had things in Victoria proper.
Yeah.
They would have, for the armed services, they'd have all sorts of dance.
Right.
Places where they could go, you know. But
Right.
my wife used to come over. I'd be there in a short leave, and I got acquainted with the manager of the Empress Hotel.
Okay.
And he knew about me, and his quarters was adjacent to what they call the Blue Room.
Okay.
Right on the main floor. We used to cost me $5 a night.
Nothing.
But we were very quiet, just the wife and I. You see, no big parties or anything like that.
Right.
And so that's about the extent of our social life. Well, of course, we were newly married, you know.
That's nice, though.
We got together, and that's it.
Yeah.
Very quiet, and in the daytime we would just do a little sightseeing around, you know. I would take her to some of the sites that I knew about.
Yeah.
And then I'd see her off on one of the boats going back to Vancouver.
Very romantic.
They were quite the days those days. Well, that's over 60 years ago, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Last January, we celebrated our 60th wedding anniversary.
Yeah.
So 60 years. And we had known each other for 9 years before that.
So you've been together for a long time.
Yes. But she knew that I wouldn't, until I had a place that I could say that I'd built, I was ready for it. And it was. But like I say, the house is still standing down there, down amidst all the newer ones around in there.
Do you have one memory or experience that stands out for you the most while you were in the service?
Well, probably just one of the things that I can remember is you've heard of Ripple Rock, Seymour Narrows?
No. No.
You should read about it. Go to the library one of these days.
Okay.
And ask for a book on Ripple Rock.
Okay.
Ripple Rock was a rock that was right in the middle of Seymour Narrows, the ship's passageway.
Mm-hmm.
And what was the name of that ship? It was a hydrographic survey ship of the government. She got hold on Ripple Rock, and they had to beach her on Maud Island. And it was a bigger ship. So they sent us in there to log the tide, going through the tide rip. 13 knots going past Ripple Rock. Of course, we had the power. We could stand there and see it just boiling around us.
Okay.
They dug. They had to get rid of Ripple Rock, they said. So they tunneled out from the land side down up to the middle of Ripple Rock, up to then a certain feet, the measurements they'd take, and they filled it up full of dynamite and powder to blow the top of Ripple Rock. Quite an engineering feat.
I bet.
Yeah, you should, if you're interested, go to the library and ask one of them there if they have anything on Ripple Rock.
Right.
And
Okay.
that was and they blew it after that. They thought that was going to be something huge, but it wasn't. It turned out it wasn't as bad as it was. They thought it was going to be a mess. So now, any ship can go through past Ripple Rock and go over the top of it.
There is no Ripple Rock.
No more Ripple Rock. Yeah.
Describe your feelings on VE Day or on VJ Day.
Well, that was quite the VJ Day. We had an old commander, a naval commander. He was in charge of Comox. And some of our boys, when they knew that the war was about to be over, they got into the rum keg. Oh boy, I tell you what a party they were throwing. And some of them took one of the landing craft over to Powell River to celebrate over there. Well, Lord, they sent us over the ships. We only had about 4 there that were capable of taking a ship across. So our ship was the one I showed you there, gunboat. Took over there. I had to go ashore with all my webbing on, 245 guns out, and round these boys up, bring them back.
No kidding.
Yeah, good Lord, tell you. And we had to go through that. The next day, they had clear lower decks, they call it. Anyway, that's the terminology. This old commander there, he said, if it wasn't at the end of this goddamn bloody war, he said, I'd have you all up for it. But he says, I don't want any more. If I laid the charges that were due, they'd have me in this war for another year. He says, I'm fed up with it. I want to go home. So his charges dismissed.
No kidding.
He just cast it. I can remember that to this day. We weren't involved, but the skipper, he was quite a learned man. He was a graduate of the war college in England.
Okay.
I forget what they called it now. Lord, he came from the landed gentry of Scotland there. They had a yacht, a family yacht that was as big as our ship.
So tell me about what it was like coming home, getting out of being in the Navy.
Yeah, well, when they told me that I was cleared to go home, God, I forget the second. We both got our clearance the same day, and we got on what we call the Island Rattler from Comox down to Victoria
Okay.
and back home on all my gear. And I took my discharge out of the naval depot in Vancouver. They had a name for it then, I don't know. It was just off Sandy Park.
Mm.
And 'cause I remember I had borrowed my father-in-law's car to go over there and collect my gear and that. And while I was on their ship, one of their trucks rammed the car, but because I was on naval property, they wouldn't do a damn thing about it. So I was stuck with a repair for it. I thought, you dirties, I just tell you. So that was my experience with getting off. But I was on naval pay and allowances for 6 months.
Really?
Yeah, before they give me my final release.
Okay. So when actually
So I went back to work, and God, they were so damn glad to get me back.
where were you working?
New Westminster. This was in 19. Oh Lord, I forget the year. Well, it was the end of the war, you know.
Was it 46 that you got discharged?
No, before that.
45 then.
Yeah.
Right, right,
Just about that time, the end of the war.
right.
And I went back to work for this company where the name of it was Oliver O'Brien Motors.
Hmm.
Yes, because that's it. And they split up there, and where did I go? Well, I went with Overand because he was a junior person, and Oliver, he lost out on it in any case. Oh, this is a long
Yeah.
peacetime story.
Yeah.
No real consequence to Navy days, but anyway.
Right, right. What was it like for you to go back into civilian life? Was it strange, or were you happy for it? Or?
No, I was just as glad I was home. I had things to do at home. The grounds had all the work to do around the yard, you know, digging out stumps. I used to take a wrecker home with me and pull stumps for my neighbors around. And with this wrecker, the only one in town.
Right, right. And what were the attitudes of people towards soldiers after the war?
Oh, some of them, I didn't really have too much to do with too many people, because being Navy, when I had people calling me, would I join the Legion or something like that? I said, look, the war's over, I want no part of that. So,
Right.
to me, the Legion was a place where, oh, they're going to be there to guzzle beer and stuff like that. That's what it was for.
So you,
Doesn't
sorry.
suit me.
No.
No, I want to get on with life and living and all, and doing the things that are necessary, and build up myself on. So I ended up as, Lord, I never liked the idea of being drafted into something that somebody had control over me.
Right.
And from that time on, I decided that I wanted no part of anything that would control my life.
Mm.
So then I decided I'm going to go in as a salesperson by myself.
Right.
I don't know what the terminology would have been at the time, but I always remember I used to go down and I'd face my work as a mechanic. Lord, that was history then, you see.
Mm.
I was fully fledged mechanical personnel. Then I went into sales. Kind of did well in sales. I'm doing fine. Then I looked for new objectives in sales. And I chose the Ladner area. Ladner down all around the addition, all the farmers. There wasn't a dealership, an automotive dealership in miles of the place. So I thought, well, that's prime country for me. So I used to take my grip with papers, all the necessary documentary, drive it down there and make deals with the farmers and the rights of their place of business.
Right, right.
I kept it on for years. I made a lot of money, a lot of good money before other people got the idea going.
Right.
All the way down to what's that game reserve down there now?
Oh, the bird sanctuary.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that was the days. God, I wish I could remember his name too. These were the liquor people that had it in those days.
Oh, it was in the probation. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So I got down into him, got well acquainted with him, sold him cars, trucks, everything for the farm. No problem there, doing business with those people at all.
That's great. Do you think that veterans have been treated well?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
I have no complaint. I didn't go after them. I'm under the wing of the DVA, Department of Veterans Affairs.
Mm-hmm.
Well, because of hearing, I had problems with my ears, and I had vertigo too, that's an unbalanced condition, walking and things like that, you know. And in time, I can remember working from this end of there. They had some disputes about some of the things, so I kind of blew my top on them. I told them they had people coming out from PEI, Prince Edward Island. That's where the naval headquarters was.
Mm.
They come out here, and they sent a commission out to interview me. And they're all relatively younger people. I said, you don't know the first damn thing about the war. You weren't in it. They had to agree.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I said, forget it then. But by God, they came back and they granted me.
They did, eh?
Oh, yeah. So they granted me a percentage. And later on, they had a board on me because of a hearing condition. That's history now. However, well, it's part of my history now, so.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Do you belong to any veterans organizations? No way.
It just struck me that I think that the Canadian Legion has done good work, but it wasn't for me to take part in it. I just didn't think that I wanted a part of to me it was a beer guzzler. That just didn't suit me.
Right.
And of course I belong to the Westminster Regiment. That's down on,
Yeah.
So we have our annual benefits. It comes in around in February. We have a big black tie affair banquet there.
That must be a good time.
It is.
Yeah.
It's expensive, but then
So they go.
they do pretty good work.
Okay. What does it mean to you to be a veteran?
Well, it's just to say that I served my country. That's all.
Yeah.
I served, whether it was good, bad, or indifferent.
Right. Right.
You had a part in it.
Yeah.
And not like Peter, he's had some suffering from it.
Yeah.
I was fortunate. I came through the services with none of those. I didn't suffer any damage from personal injury or anything like that. Some of them that came back, they are, Lord, I tell you, when you go to George Derby Hospital, you see some of them there, been there from the day the war started.
No.
And that's where you can feel the effects of it then.
Yeah.
You know. And some of them had it. I was fortunate.
Yeah.
I say the worst I had was the inner ear problem with vertigo that I had, and I live with that.
Yeah.
I'm still living with it. So. City Hall. We've probably been down there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What cross is that you present?
Well, this was just a naval cross, just in commemoration of the war.
Okay. What about contacts and friendships from the war years? Do you still maintain any?
Well, people like Peter Larkin. There's the odd one, the naval personnel. Not too many around.
No.
And one of the best ones I had was in Victoria. But after the war, he moved down to California.
Oh, okay.
So we went down and visited him a couple of times, but then it's a long way to go just to an old Navy fellow, you know, but Davy McKenzie, he was part of the McKenzie family in Victoria. A lot of his people still there. I think he passed away, though.
Right. Okay, well, I think that's probably about it for the interview, unless there's anything that you think I've missed or you'd like to add.
Well, really, I can't think of anything that's... I can think of the odd thing that come in there. We had a function once. It was fortunate. It was a good night. It was a moonlit night, and we were just doing this patrol, you know. And then all of a sudden, this is after midnight. I was in my bunk, and all of a sudden I heard boom, 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 boom. We run over a log. But before I guess one of my engine room boys didn't catch on to it quick enough there to cut the engines, and one of them went crossways, and it stuck away up in it jammed in between the two propellers at the stern.
No kidding.
So the whole ship's company was out then, and I was able to do this. I worked one engine at a time. One engine reversed and turned the screw one way, and the other way to force it out like that. And then we had what they call bearing off spars on the ship. This is part of the old time naval days, but they were bearing off spars nevertheless. And we had engine room crew holding up there to try and hold it, some pushing and pulling on it, and the whole company in there until we finally got it clear. And then it was just a question of limping in. You know, one shaft was out there. They were Monel steel shafts. They stuck out from the stern of the ship about 26 feet. But they were all to it. Oh, we made it into harbor though on one engine and just slow turning. God, what a mess. So we were on the dockside, prepared two new, just rebuilt of course, but that was quite an escapade that night, trying to figure out how to get across from this big boomstick that was about big, foot and a half. Right? A big son of a gun.
No kidding.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Sticking right crossways. The moonlit night.
Yeah.
In a storm, of course, you don't know. You may have avoided it in a stormy, but I have a feeling one of my engine room crew, he was just this one on at a time. He'd been asleep.
Right. Couldn't catch it fast enough.
Yeah. He wouldn't have been, of course.
No.
That's what would have happened, I'm sure. Yeah. That was just one of the incidents there, but that's about all I can think of, you know.
No. That was good.
I'll probably think of other things after you've gone.
Well, thanks, Mr. Drinkwater.
Well, I hope it's of some good. Yeah,